Welcome. You're at World Chat. This is a show that attempts to introduce Haverhill, our whole community, to some international people that live here in our neighborhoods. I believe that if we know each other more, our community is better off. The American experience is enriched by the people who come into our country, who are good citizens and who offer some of their own culture into the mix of our society. And it's exciting to meet these people and find what they're doing. And tonight we're going to meet some of these people. We all want the same things. We want freedom, we want safety, we want good living conditions, and we all want to be loved, even for all of our mistakes, warts and all. We want someone who will love us, and I think only God can do that. And we certainly center this program around God too. Tonight, we have some people here, Lucas and Tina Oliveira, and Lucas is Brazilian. And we're going to meet them, we're going to be talking. If you wonder why you're hearing Southern accent, I have to tell you, I grew up down by Kentucky and the sound never leaves. We came here, my husband and I came here from the Bahamas. Now you know it has to be God if you make that kind of a leap. But it's been exciting. We're here with North Point Bible College, and that's where we've met these people. And so we're going to talk tonight about where you've been, what you did this summer was so exciting. And let's start with you, Lucas, and talk about Brazil a little bit.
Okay. Well, it's nice to be here. It's an honor to even be invited to be here. Thank you so much for that. Like you said, I am from Brazil. I was born and raised until I was probably around 16, 17 in Brazil. My parents came to America, so therefore they brought me up here, and I've been living here since, so it's been about 11 years now.
Did you come here and did you go into high school at that age, or were you finished with school? What was your situation?
Yes, I came in Brazil, you only go to school for 11 years. Oh. So I was halfway done with my last year in high school in Brazil. And then when we moved up here, they looked at all my reports and everything, and they realized that there were only 11 years on my report. So they decided to put me in my junior year in high school. So I ended up having another year and a half of school once I came up.
And did you speak English?
I did not. I didn't.
You came into the country not speaking English.
It was actually, it's a funny story because in Brazil you also have to take a second language when you go to high school. And my second language of choice was English, but I didn't know anything. So every semester my mom had to go in and talk to the teacher and ask for mercy and favor and like give me some kind of project rescue or something that would get me back and get my grade back up. Because I never did well at all. So it was interesting when my parents said, "We're going to America." I'm like, I don't know how to talk to the people there, but we came.
Wow. You know, our last show was a young man who, same thing, and I am just so impressed. You're amazing, intelligent people who come into this country not speaking the language and go to school and finish school and so on and so forth. And you have no accent at all. Now you just sound like one of the gang. Well, that's great. You told me a story about your family and the spiritual heritage that you have in your family, about your mother. You want to tell that?
Yes. I am second generation on my dad's side and third generation on my mom's side. When my mom was little, back in Brazil, a missionary from a specific denomination here in America had gone down to Brazil, and he was just going through Brazil and trying to evangelize as many people as he could. And one specific day, he came to my mom's town. But there was a difference with that town. My mom, who at the time she was 9 years old, had just gotten home with her parents, and the doctor had just told her parents that, listen, take this little girl home. We can't do anything anymore. She's going to die. Just take her home and she'll die.
Wow.
When they got home, My grandfather dropped her off at home and said, all right, I have to leave, I can't watch this. So he went out, he went into the city, and he started walking around the town when he heard this weird accent coming from the middle of the town, and it was coming from the inside of a tent set up in the middle of the town. And the man said, if there are any sick people in your home, just bring them in and we'll pray for them. Bring them in tonight. My grandfather, when he heard that, he said, I can't wait until tonight. So he ran home, picked up my mom, brought her in, brought her down and said to the men, will you pray for this girl? She's sick and she's about to die. The missionary prayed for my mom, and then he turned to my mom's dad, my grandpa, and said, what is it that she couldn't do before? And my grandpa said she couldn't eat anything cold. She couldn't eat ice cream or anything. So the missionary went and bought her ice cream, and since that day, she's been healed and completely fine.
Tested it right then.
Yep.
And never again had that problem.
Yep. And from that point on, the whole family became a Christian because they saw the power of God operating right there.
Wow. It's wonderful to hear, stories of real miracles, people things that really happened, and this healing lasted a lifetime, right? That's amazing. That's what a heritage you have.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk about why you're at North Point, but I think some of your heritage has brought you even this far. So tell us a little bit in Brazil. What language did you speak?
I spoke Portuguese in Brazil. That's the main language in the country.
And are there tribal languages too?
Yes.
Because there are a lot of not American Indians. How do you say it?
They call them
Amerindians.
Native Brazilians.
All right. Is that the way you say it?
That's
Okay.
a polite way,
Is
politically
that the
correct.
way now? I was reading on the internet. They use the other term, so good. Okay.
Yes,
but,
they call them Native Indians in Brazil, but again, they also call them Native Brazilians. But yeah, we have many little villages, especially when you go towards the rainforest and areas
Right.
like that. In the city, there are also many little villages, but not in the sense of far away from each other. It's just different communities coexisting together.
Right.
And we have the Japanese community, which the funny thing is the city that I came from, São Paulo, it has the biggest Japanese community outside of Japan is in São Paulo.
Really?
And they have Italian communities, they have Germany communities, so it's all in there. It's all a big melting pot.
That's great. That's great. We think of the U.S. as that melting pot, but I know Brazil really, Argentina I think is a bit that way too, but South American countries are the same way. I was reading even that it's hard to find anyone who is pure European, pure black, pure native Brazilian, because it's just such a mix now, in the same way here, right?
Yeah, I had to do write a paper for American history at school, and the topic was where you came from, like trying to figure out all your ancestors and who they were, and it was really interesting because I have this native Brazilian, a little bit of native Brazilian, a little bit of African from the slaves when they were brought to Brazil, and then a lot of Portuguese in me, and that's like who I am, the mix of who I am. But you see people who are German, Italian, from all over, and it's just the way the people grow up there.
What about food? Is it just a big mix, or what's a particular dish? Do you have anything that says this is Brazilian?
We do. It's an interesting dish. It's called feijoada, and it's basically a mix of black beans cooked together with all kinds of pork.
Ooh.
And you'd think that sounds
Sounds
delicious,
good.
but when the origin of the dish came from when the slaves are brought to Brazil, they would get the leftovers of the black beans and the leftovers of the pork and cook together, which means that that's the pork's tongue, the pork's feet, the pork's ears, the pork's belly fat. So they put it all together and cook together. And to this day, people still eat that dish, and it's good. It's delicious.
Right.
If you don't think about what's in it, it's
Right.
delicious.
Right. Well, the same way here, they say the poor man's food is the one now that has become the cultural food that everyone wants.
Yeah.
And I think all of our foods, most of them have come from things like that, and people had to make them tasty, use what they had, so that's great. Did you have a culture shock, and besides language and coming into school, was there anything else just coming into the country that really was hard to get around or hard to?
For sure. Again, I came from Sao Paulo, which is a very big city with tall buildings, malls all over. We had tons of McDonald's because it got exported out there. But I think the biggest thing that I faced when I came in was that people worked so hard and they went so fast with their day-to-day life, but they never stopped. It was just crazy for me that people just went out and worked, and never stopped.
Here, when you came
in
here.
America. In Brazil, people work hard. There are lots of, like, again, being from the city, there are lots of buildings, people are working their day jobs, but they also have a time for family, a time for rest. One of the biggest things that we had in Brazil was that if you work an eight-hour day, you have 1 to 2 hours lunchtime where you can actually go home and have lunch with your family. And that's non-existent here. You usually
I think you need to come and bring some of that culture here. That sounds wonderful.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
it was
just
a
more of a
lot about
laid-back-
family. Yeah.
Work hard, but enjoy your life as you go. That's great. So you came here, and where did you settle? Where did your family settle? What town?
When we first got here, we lived in Pawtucket, Rhode Island. And then we moved up to Boston, Mass. So after being here for a year, we moved up to Boston.
Okay, so now I'm trying to bring Tina into this picture. So where did you two connect?
Yes. When
Tina?
when I moved up to Boston, I started attending the same church that she did. And that's
And then we both were very involved with the worship team at our church and the youth group at our church, and that's how we ended up meeting.
What church was that?
Celebration International Church, which is in Wayland.
And that's Pastor,
Pastor Joe Sapienza.
yeah, he's a great guy. Wow, that's amazing. And so did you speak good English when you met Tina? Did you struggle?
it was okay. I could get I could speak English.
Love transcends
It was-
that language.
Well, actually, Tina has a good story about that time.
Yeah, it was very interesting. The very first conversation we ever had on the telephone after we started dating, I remember hanging up and thinking, oh my goodness, I didn't understand half of what he said. How in the world is this going to work? But then time went on and I was able to understand his accent better and his English got better, and then there weren't any problems.
Wow, so how long have you been here now?
In America? 11 years.
11 years. Well, you are certainly one of the bunch. Your language, your accent, everything, you know. I would have said this guy was born in Boston or something, you know. That's great. So you're here at North Point. What brought you here? Maybe the two of you. You were a teacher
Yes.
and you're a businessman. You're not kids right out of high school coming to North Point. Tell
That's
us,
Yeah,
Tina,
no,
tell
we're
us
not.
that
We
story.
had both gone to school and had our careers. We had been married for about 2 years before we decided to come to North Point. But our relationship with North Point has gone on for a long time. Like I said, we were youth leaders at our church, and North Point, formerly known as Zion, holds something twice a year called Campus Experience,
Yes.
where high school students can come and check out the school and experience what it's like to go. So we would bring our youth group every year, twice a year, up to school. So we'd visited North Point, I don't even know how
So
many
you brought
times.
youth up here to encourage them to come.
Yes, and God
And
was the
if
one who
something
encouraged
happened-
us to come.
That's great.
So we made the decision to drop our careers and change
Wow.
things and follow what God wanted and come to North Point.
Now, what are your majors?
I'm a children and family major.
Yeah. And I'm a pastoral major.
Wow. So possibly pastoring a church and working with family, youth, and all those kinds of things. Wow, in the future. Or whatever happens, whatever God brings
Wherever we
along
go.
in the way.
Yes.
Because now you, being at North Point, you had an opportunity that came along last year. I got to announce that opportunity. We have 19 Assemblies of God colleges, and the Assemblies of God offered these colleges 24 scholarships to do 6 weeks internships overseas. And students had to apply from these colleges, and our college won 6 of those scholarships, and you guys got 2 of them. So tell us where you went. Let's talk about what you did. This is so exciting.
Sounds good. Well, we were in East Africa on a little tiny island. We were there for 2 months.
And that's why you're dressed.
Yes.
We need to
Yes.
talk about why you're
Yes.
dressed the way you are
This is not
tonight.
what we're in Brazil.
Or at North Point.
I know, that's true.
Right.
This is a normal outfit that we would wear on a normal day. And we spent 2 months with them. We spent time living with them. We spent time learning their language, their heart language, which is most of the world, when you're born in a country, you are not born with just one language. You're born with different languages available to you where you're expected to learn them. And it wasn't different with this country that we spent 2 months in there. When you're born there, you're born speaking different languages already.
Like a tribal type?
You have a tribal language, you have an official language, and you have a trade language.
3.
Yes. So we spent a lot of time learning their tribal language or their heart language. So it was a good, interesting experience.
And you were there 6 weeks or 2 months?
2 months.
2 months.
8 weeks, yeah.
Wow, that's a long time.
Definitely.
So did you learn to speak some of the language?
We did. We could get around, take a taxi,
Can you
buy things
share something with us?
to each other.
Whatever
Do
you
you wanna-
want.
do you want us to have
I
a
just want to hear
conversation?
that language.
So when you in the morning, it's very normal. It's an island living in. It's very community living. So you don't just live for yourself. You live for everyone else. So in the morning, when you greet someone, there are a series of greetings that you have to do, and you start with "Ufanihaje,"
Which is how are you, and Njema.
which is "I'm good," and then you go on saying different things. So "Ufanihaje," "Njema," "Gaonono," "Gamnono," "Nawewe," "Ewa."
Greetings, morning greetings, huh?
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. That's great. So, being students, how did you fund a trip like this? I know that this scholarship paid for most of it, but you had some responsibility.
Yes, the scholarship was very helpful. It covered 80% of the cost, which, considering we had to come up with the money for 2 people,
That's right.
it was wonderful that we had that opportunity. And then for the remaining amount, we reached out to friends and family and members of our church, and we told them all about this wonderful opportunity, and we had just many wonderful people who wanted to invest in this for us and were able to give money toward this so that we were able to go.
That's just incredible to see how, if you know God is wanting you to do something and you say, yes, I'm going to do it, and you see that money supply come. And that comes to a lot of money when you go overseas like that. So you don't just get on a plane and leave Boston and end up in East Africa.
No, we do
You did some kind of preparation.
Yeah,
What did you do?
We started training a couple days before we actually went out. It was an intensive training, so that's why it was just a couple days.
Where was this?
Down in Missouri, and we went there and we spent a few days with intense training where we had professionals come in and teach us about security, teach us about the different contexts of the earth, on the earth, and how to relate to people without being offensive to them.
Yes.
And all those little things that are important. It's not, like you said, it's not just about getting in a plane and getting to a different part of the earth. You actually have to be able to learn how to communicate with people, not just through language, but with your body language, being respectful of their culture, and all those things.
We learned about dress code
Yeah.
because dress is very different.
So,
as you can
yeah,
obviously
tell us
see with
about what
the-
happened, how you had to dress. Did you dress like this all the time?
I would dress like this all the time. Women would wear a long dress or a long skirt to their ankles at all times. We never wore a shorter skirt or dress than that. Or the outfit I have on right now, it's a dress to my knees with pants underneath, and that was appropriate. And then we would wear this shawl, it's called a lasso, and it would be draped over our shoulders to cover our front and our back for modesty reasons. And the women who lived in this country also used it to cover their head. While I was there, I did not have to, because covering your head shows that you're a Muslim. So I was able to leave my head uncovered, but from the neck all the way down, I was covered all the time. And this is all day. If you go to the beach, you still remain covered. If people are in your home, you still remain covered.
And was it hot?
It was very hot, very hot. It was,
Humid? Well, an island
yes, it was
nation.
90s, very humid all the
Very hot.
time, no shade. So it was
And,
a hot,
and
hot
you had
country.
air conditioning, I guess?
Not at all.
No. Well,
No.
you know, where did you stay?
While we were there, we lived with a missionary couple who have been on the island for a little while, and we were able to live in their home and just follow life the way that they did.
Didn't you go out into homes of some people who lived there, though?
Yep. We got to spend time in people's. It's a very interesting culture and community lifestyle. Here in America, it's an honor if I'm invited to go to your house. There, it's an honor if you can come to my house. If I can host you in my house, then I am honored.
Yes.
And that's a different lifestyle, and it's a different thinking that sometimes we can't relate to it. So we got invited to go to many people's houses because they felt honored when they were hosting us. And it was always very fun and interesting doing life with them.
Well, what did you eat? So they invited you into their homes. What did they serve you?
They served lots of fruits and like stuff that you find in the market.
Oh, that's
Because
good.
again, it's an island, so it's not like they
Vegetables,
yeah.
fruits?
Lots
So you
of
did you eat
bread
anything
and-
weird?
What did we eat that was weird?
No?
That's true. There was a food that's called madaba. I actually never tried it, but while Lucas was there, he tried it.
It was interesting. It resembled a lot of spinach, but it did not taste like spinach. And
Bitter or something?
it has a weird taste to it, and it has a weird texture. It leaves a weird texture in your mouth. So
Oh,
it was interesting.
something that grows there.
Yes, it's just basically it's a leaf that they cook together with fish stuff, and then they make the juice of the fish and they pour it on top of it, and it's weird.
Wow.
But I was willing to try, so I tried.
Good for
especially,
you.
Especially if someone's going to offer you in front of them, you have to try. So
Well, that's right. You know, the Bible says to eat what's set before you,
Yes.
and you have to be polite.
Yes.
And it's dishonoring, really, if you don't
Yes.
try at least. I mean, I've found that in our travels, people know we don't eat the same things, but if I try, they're happy. They know maybe I won't like everything.
And we ate different things too, but that was just one of the things that we ate and I didn't like. But all the other things that we ate, I ate different kinds of bread that were made with coconut and bread that had pepper in it. And I had things that were spicy, and I don't like spicy. I can't handle spicy. But there, I ate it, and I loved it. So
Great.
it's just that little thing that it was a little different texture.
Tina, tell us about your food experience.
Well, I had a wonderful blessing while I was there. I actually have a gluten allergy, so I'm unable to eat bread or pasta or any food like that here in America. And while we were flying to Africa, I was sitting on the plane, and they had served us a meal on every flight, and every meal had bread. And I finally just said, you know what, God, I'm going to this country to work with these people, and I don't want to offend anyone. I need to be able to eat what's given to me. So I need you to take this allergy away. So I sat on the plane and I prayed right there, and I asked him to take it away. And I ate a piece of bread, trusting that I know that God had healed me, and I was completely fine. And when I arrived
And
in
you
the
ate
country,
bread, oh.
I ate bread probably at every meal,
Wow.
because that's what they eat there. I had pasta, I had everything that I can't eat here in America. And I was completely safe the entire time.
No problems at all.
No
Normally, you
problems
would have
whatsoever.
swollen up inside and
Swollen
all
up.
these things.
Yeah, I would have had a
and-
lot of health issues, but
Wow.
nothing
So-
happened.
Now what? Now, tell me what happened when you came back.
Well, I came home and I arrived in Missouri because we stopped there again for a little more debriefing when we came home. And I ate something for the very first time that I haven't been able to eat in a long time, and all my problems came right back.
Oh, no.
So, unfortunately, I
But-
still can't eat it here, but God protected me
Isn't
while
that
I was
amazing?
over there.
That is just, that's a great story.
Mm-hmm.
we don't have a lot of time left. I wish we had an hour because there's so many things I wanted to talk about. But what were some of your best moments that just stay in your heart forever?
I think for me, my best moment was when we were about to leave and someone called me their best friend and that they would never forget me. That was definitely, it totally touched me and it made a difference in my heart. So.
Yeah, we made some wonderful friends there, and it was just so nice when we'd walk down the street and people would recognize us and call out our name and would want to come talk to us. And it was people that maybe we'd only met for a brief moment one day, and they remembered us, and they were just so happy to see us. So it was a very welcoming community.
And you had some marriage proposals, I hear.
We did, actually, yes.
We both did.
You both did.
We both did.
I know a guy wanted to marry you.
Yes, I was talking to a gentleman who was very interested in me and was very interested
And
in
they had
getting
more
to know
than
me
one
better.
wife there, right?
Yes, they
So
did.
you could have been one of a number.
Oh,
there.
yes. And so it was to them it was okay if we were married.
And what about your experience?
I had a lady at the market who wanted to marry me like desperately, and I told her I'm married, and she said it's okay. If your wife lets me marry you, I will marry you. She wanted to be my second wife.
Well, I know you're real flattered, but we're going to tell how old she was.
She was in her 80s and she had almost no teeth, but it's okay. She wanted to marry
She
me.
wanted to marry you. You're a great guy. You're a real catch. Guys, this has been wonderful. Is there anything you want to leave us with before we have to close out tonight?
Well, while we were there, we actually brought a little souvenir for you and Brother Henson. And it's the only thing that they make on the island. Everything else is brought from outside, and it's a little souvenir from the island. It's one of the clothes that they wear out there.
Oh my goodness.
It's basically how a woman would
Do you
dress
see this?
herself.
Can you get a close-up of that? That is gorgeous. And do you know that I use a lot of blue and white in my kitchen?
Oh,
You
perfect.
know
It will
that?
blend
That
right
is,
in.
that is gorgeous, just gorgeous. And well, you guys have honored me. This is a real honor. Thank you so much.
And I think
That
it's
is
also
so special.
it's also important for people to remember that one of the things that changed me a lot while we were there is that people live with dreams anywhere in the world. It's not just in America.
That's right. That's right. So we're going to have to say goodbye. So I'm going to say adios, sayonara,
Ciao, adios.
Arrivederci, la la nono.
no matter what language. We'll see you next time. Thanks. Bye-bye.